All right, now we're going to measure resistance. So I'm going to show you a couple things right now, but rule number one with resistance is we never measure resistance with the battery connected. Why? Because inside of the meter there are batteries, and when you are measuring resistance, it's using the internal batteries of the meter to put a little bit of current through the component and, if you will, measure what is missing. That's the way I like to explain it, but it's a little more complicated than that. So we disconnect and get rid of the battery. All right, now we're using the inside. Now, rule number two, got rid of the battery. When we measure resistance, we always have to zero the meter out. Every time we switch, so I have R times 1, R times 100, and R times 10,000. Whenever I switch from one or the other, you zero out the meter because inside there are batteries, and as the batteries wear out, it's going to change things. So here we go. So got it right there. I'm going to zero it out, touch these together. Zero the meter out, so it reads on 0 using the zeroing out dial. Now if I want to measure the resistance here, we'll move this aside. I want to measure the resistance of this little resistor. Well, I've got all of this connected. It's best to take it out and measure. And so we're simply going to make sure we get good contact, measure, and using the right scale, we want to make sure that the needle is about in the middle towards the right if you can. We'll measure and take our readings on that and then put this back in. Now you can, if you so choose, as long as these aren't touching, measure resistance right here. And it doesn't matter which way you do it on this one. So we're going to measure resistance right there. I'm getting the exact same reading. But if I were to plug this in, I would not, because I'm creating multiple paths for things. But here's what I want to show you. So here we have an LED and a diode right there. And I want to measure the resistance of the diode. Well, you can't measure the resistance of the diode in this circuit. And I have a LED diode and a regular diode. So if I wanted to measure the total resistance of this, I can't, because you can't measure resistance of these components. If you want to know the resistance of those, you have to use Ohm's law. And to use Ohm's law, we're going to bring back our battery. And here we're going to put it all together. So to figure out exactly what the resistance of these using Ohm's law, the first thing I will do is plug in my battery, go back to voltage, and take a voltage drop across that and read what my voltage is. Then I will disconnect. I will put it on amperage. I will properly connect my meter to measure amperage. I will measure the amperage. And I will take a reading on the amperage. And then using Ohm's law, which is E divided by I equals R, I will use math to figure out what the resistance is of that diode. Now if I didn't have diodes, there we go, no more diodes, and I want to know the total resistance of just a simple circuit like this with just resistors, no problem whatsoever. I put it on the appropriate scale, I zero it out, I connect the meter, and I'm reading total resistance, and that's resistance.